Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Drop the Gloves with Wichita Thunder head coach Malcolm Cameron. Drop the Gloves is a weekly program that gives you, the fans, the opportunity to ask the Wichita coach questions about the Thunder, or hockey, or sports in general. In this week's episode, the coach talks to us about what he's expecting from the team over the final 19 games of the season. He discusses the trade deadline with us, and a local woman hopes the coach has a single brother. So let's get right to Drop the Gloves. Well, let's welcome back Coach Cameron. Coach, do you have team updates you'd like to provide first?
Just that we made a trade on Saturday. I thought we were really light on experience, as we just discussed before we went on the podcast. The majority of our core team now is first-year players. So Darryl Lloyd is a real hard energy player, physical guy, he's in great shape, brings a good attitude and a sense of professionalism. So we didn't have to give up anything to get him, so I was happy to bring him aboard. We also picked up Brad Kuzner, who was in training camp with us. Kind of got squeezed out at the beginning of the year just due to numbers. And he's played really well for us over the last couple of games. So he's with us right now. And then we sent Mike Moran back to Mississippi of the Southern Pro League.
Well, talking about, you and I talked a little bit about the fact of 31 days, you had 16 games. Finally get a little breather here with 4 days off. What do you do with the team during that time?
Well, we didn't do anything yesterday. Obviously, gave them the day off. And then today we had a split practice where I took the defense out for half an hour and then the forwards out for half an hour just to work on some repetition of some skill stuff. When you play a lot of games like that, you don't get a lot of practice time, and bad habits tend to creep in. So it's a chance to go out and really teach and work on basic fundamentals of things that will help our team game. And it was really good. It wasn't physically taxing or anything like that, but just more of teaching techniques, and it was good. And then tomorrow we'll be right back to regular practice.
Kind of leading into that, with 19 games left in the season, what do you look to accomplish with the team right now?
Well, we want to finish on a positive note here. Obviously, want to get the best record that we can over these 19 games, but also get a sense on guys that we want to bring back for next year. You know, which guys, and we didn't have a tremendous core at all to start this season with. In fact, very few players back. So it's a chance for me to see who's improved. Obviously, we're playing a lot of teams that are jockeying to get into the postseason, as well as trying to hold their position in the postseason. So we're going to get everybody's best every night. So it's a good evaluation tool for me.
This last road trip, Drew Owsley, I thought, played extremely well for you. Do you see him in long-term future for the team?
Well, in the minor leagues, there is no long-term future. I mean, who knows, what can happen. All depends, where you go with your affiliation next year. Do you have another team you're working with? Do you get two contract goalies? There's so many things up in the air. It would be hard for me, especially with the goaltending position, to say that. But his record is not indicative of his work. He played really well. Unfortunately, during a lot of those losses for him, we just didn't have a lot of goal support. He lost a lot of low-scoring games where we didn't score many goals. So, but he's a heck of a kid, and he works very, very hard. And I would never say no to Drew Owsley.
You mentioned Darryl Lloyd joining the team. How do you decide what line he fits in, or any new guy joining the team?
Well, it depends on where you're at with your roster. Like with Zach O'Brien out of the lineup, due to an injury, you got to look. I'm trying to balance having at least some experience on every line so that we don't have complete rookie lines. So I had Lowe with St. Cyr and Friedman. I had T-Sink, who's played with Grant and Vince Dunn. And then I had Lloyd also playing on a line with Tatchell and DeBlau. So at least we had an experienced player on each line. Also a grit element, kind of a physical player on each line. Because you can't have three skill guys necessarily, or three grinding guys sometimes. Because if you do that, then you're not going to score many goals. So I try to have a balance of everything.
Well, let's head to our fan questions this week. We first of all begin with Andy from Wichita. He says, why has the team struggled so much lately? Do you feel that there is something that has really made the team struggle?
Well, yeah, it's the fact that all of our high-end skill talent is out of the lineup in our experience. If you did lineup of what we should have based on what we recruited and signed and started the season with, it vastly looks differently than our lineup on Sunday afternoon in Quad City. In essence, we're missing our top two lines, really, of what we should have. That's 6 forwards out of 10 out of your lineup, and then your top two defensemen on top of that. So that's 2 power play units. That's a significant amount of your scoring, your speed, your skill, your savvy, and your experience out of the lineup. So I think that has a lot to do with it. Our kids are working very, very hard. They'll certainly be better for it next season because of the ice time they're getting. I mean, there's no rookie group in the league getting ice time like our players are right now, but that's just the way that it is. So I think that's the biggest reason why we struggle is just a lack of depth in terms of scoring and skill.
Our next question comes from Jesse from Hutchinson. It says, do you pretty much have to resolve yourself at this point that the guys that were called up to Binghamton are simply not returning?
Some of them, yes, for sure. The ones that have been gone since November in Rodwald, Crucial, Niski, Rumble, no, they're not coming back. The ones that have gone up recently, Dornbosch, Rupert, Gagne's really been gone since December the 2nd. There is a possibility of those 3 coming back, all of them, some of them, one of them type of thing. So a lot of it will play out here over the remainder of this week in terms of injuries and the NHL trade deadline, which is tomorrow at 3 p.m. Eastern Time.
Next up we have Derek. He says, while you're probably not happy with the record, what has been your overall assessment of the team so far this season? Well,
I mean, obviously I liked our team at the beginning of the year, certainly through the first 20-plus games. Of course, I've never had a losing season, so this is the first time I've ever had to kind of endure this frustration. But I will tell you, personally, I've learned more this year than I probably have in any other year I've coached. I've learned, personalities, things I like, things I don't like. It's also giving me a good assessment of which players I want to bring back next year from this group.
I would assume that when you're winning, it's kind of like not wanting to knock over the apple cart thing. So you're learning a little bit more about what you want personally.
Well, yeah. When you have kind of the lineup where we had through the first 20 games, sometimes every team has what I call warts. Those warts don't get exposed because you have depth. Once you lose the depth and your experience, the warts start to show. And you see that with every team. Like the Montreal Canadiens really weren't as good a team as what everybody thought they were because they had all-world goaltender Carey Price. And when you have a guy like him, he covers up a lot of warts. When you had the speed and experience and size, Vince Arsenal in the lineup, and Rodwald, and Krushelnyski, and Rumble, and Gagne, Rupert, Dornbosch, those types of players, you don't get exposed as much. But when you take them out of the lineup, 8 or 9 or 10 guys, even Zach O'Brien out right now, you really get exposed because you just don't have that experience and depth. And that's what I'm learning right now. I mean, again, this is a complete aberration. I've never gone through this with an affiliation before, and I've had 10 different teams. So I would never expect this to happen again, but the thing that it's teaching me is to never say never, and plan. I guess that maybe plan for the worst, as if there's an accident and you could lose a whole whack of guys. The problem with our league is we have roster restrictions that the American Hockey League doesn't. American League team can carry as many players as they want. They have no salary cap, no roster restrictions. We do. So to go out and sign, 25, 26 guys, you can't do it. Because on opening day you can only have 20 and then 2 reserve spots. You got to be able to fix it salary cap wise. And if you go out and sign a whole bunch of guys that are extremely high end, you're going to have to sit some of them, and then you're going to have an unhappy locker room. So there's a lot of things to balance.
Next up we have Greg from Oklahoma City. He said, you mentioned that there's a trade deadline. Does that mean that you cannot add players from a different league, like from the Southern one or from Europe, if the deadline is passed, if you need?
We have a European deadline which is passed, which was in February, so we can't add any players from Europe. You can add amateur players coming out of college or junior hockey right up to the end of the regular season, and you can bring up players from the Southern League. Our trade deadline is March the 9th, so any movement within the league it will be done as of that day.
Lewis from Wichita asks, he says, Coach, one thing I really like about hockey is that there is a lot of ways that a team can get fired up. A big hit, a fight, a big save. I think that makes it so much different than other sports.
For sure. That's how you keep momentum. That's how you swing momentum in your favor. That's the uniqueness of hockey because, you don't see hitting in basketball. You don't see fighting necessarily in basketball, and there's no saves in basketball. In football, it's everything's so planned out each play, the play only lasts a few seconds. Hockey, you can go 8, 10, 12 minutes here without whistles sometimes, and it's just so fast all the time that it's so emotional. Anything like that can just either upset the apple cart or pick it right back over and get you going again, and it's very unique.
Back at the trade deadline, Benny says the trade deadline sounds like it's a nerve-wracking experience for coaches in the ECHL.
I've never let it be. I mean, typically, it's changed a little bit over the years because, in the early part of my career in the ECHL, you really didn't get a lot of contract players. You might get one or two. So you never really worried about losing your contract players at an NHL trade level necessarily. Nowadays, teams, Toledo come in here, they had 7, contracts. So depending on where their NHL team is going, whether they're buyers or sellers, can really impact our rosters down here. I don't think, just looking at what Ottawa is doing right now, they're adding a lot at the NHL level, but they haven't given up any depth in Binghamton. So that's a positive sign for us. However, it goes till 3 tomorrow, so we'll have to wait and see. And in terms of our deadline, typically it's what do we really need? Where are we weak in terms of depth? And then you try and get a team that maybe has not going to make the playoffs, that they want to maybe move an older player out to get a younger player in. And that's the approach that I usually take, because experience and depth is what you want heading into the playoffs.
Do you find that other ECL coaches would be reaching out to you because they're going on a playoff run and they might have somebody that you want?
Possibly, but because our team is so young, they're looking for experienced guys, for sure. I wouldn't anticipate, too many moves from us, other than adding guys out of the college or, junior ranks.
Graham from Wichita would like to know, he says, when your team is going to take an icing call and is a 50-50 shot that your player beats the opponent, do you want that player to let up some because he knows he's going to have to stay on the ice because of the icing?
No, I want him to beat that puck out. I think that aggressive nature is something you don't ever want to turn off your players.
James from Wichita asks, why does a lineman kick a player off a face-off or from a face-off?
Because he's cheating. That means he's encroaching on the face-off circle, trying to gain advantage over the other player. They usually give you one warning, and then they kick you out because they're trying to speed up the game. And it could be a winger, not necessarily the centerman, that causes the centerman to get kicked out. If a winger jumps into the circle too early, he'll give him one warning. If he does it again, it's kick you out.
Really? Well,
yep.
Okay. Isaac from Augusta would like to know, what do you think are the primary differences that make a guy an NHL goalie as opposed to an ECHL one?
Well, I've had guys that have gone from the ECHL to the NHL, several of them, 4 of them actually, that have gone from our league to play in the NHL as goaltenders. So the biggest thing for me is mental. It's mental preparation. Can they get over a bad goal? Can they get over a bad game? How do they approach each shot? I think the biggest thing is mental, because some of the goaltenders I had certainly weren't the biggest guys. Yaroslav Halak with the Islanders, 6-foot goalie, 175 pounds. Anton Khudobin's less than 6 feet tall. Danny Taylor was less than 6 feet tall. What made them get to the next level was how they mentally approached each game, each shot, and each goal that they let in.
Do you find that that's pretty much true of any player, just because the skill level, I would think, would be pretty comparable?
Not necessarily, because skill positions, the National League is so big. The guys are so fast now. really, the guys at our level, if they can't skate or have the ability to skate and get to that level, they really don't have much of a chance now. But we have a guy like Matt DeBlau who probably outskates 80% of the guys in the NHL. But he's just got to add some other dimensions to his game, and part of it would be like a consistency thing. Not being the best player one night to being non-existent the next night. You just want to know each and every day. When they're paying millions of dollars for you, they want to know what they're getting every night.
Absolutely. Phil from Derby would like to know, does social media make it harder as a coach?
I don't ever read it. So, I don't have a Facebook, a Twitter, whatever else is out there. I guess I'm a little bit old school in that sense. I know that stuff is out there. I know the players are all involved in it. All I ever do is tell them to be responsible on social media in terms of what they put out there, so that they don't put themselves in a position where I have to deal with it.
Makes perfect sense. Shane from Wichita would like to know, do players go to Europe to play just for money, or is the skill level comparable to what is here in North America?
Well, it depends on the league. There's leagues over there, like the Russian league, the KHL is probably somewhere between the NHL and the American Hockey League. Same with the Swiss league in the top German top division, which is called the DEL. Sweden's first league is a very good league. Those guys pay really good money. Like, it would be the next best amount of money you can make as a hockey player below the NHL. Like, American Hockey League players don't necessarily make great money. They're there for the chance to get to the NHL. They get paid a minor league salary, and then if they get called up, a major league salary based on the number of days they're there, or games, or whatever it is. In the case like of Alexis Loiseau, he got an opportunity to go to Germany for, let's just say, it's in the hundreds of percent more money than he can make here. Plus, they play a lighter schedule. Like, our schedule is not easy. We play 72 games in 170 days. With all this travel, plus practice time and workouts and all of those things. Some guys' bodies just can't take it after a couple of years, so they go over there to make triple the money and play a third of or 2/3 of the games, or half the games. So it's very attractive.
I'm sure it is. Next we have Vern from Detroit. He says, Coach, did you see where the player was mad at the way that the linesman dropped the puck, and so he tapped the linesman in the back of the leg with a stick? I don't care how light he tapped him. The league has to crack down on that, don't they?
I believe they do. And now, if he was doing it, I guess it would all depend on if he said something to the ref, like jokingly said, hey, buddy, what are you doing? And tapped him in a joking manner. But if there was no verbal communication there, or if there was verbal and it was condescending, that's something they have to deal with, for sure.
Sam from North Kansas City would like to know, doesn't there seem to be something wrong with Claude Julien going to the Montreal Canadiens after being the coach of the Boston Bruins? To me, that seems like Bill Clinton working for Donald Trump.
Well, Claude Julien had coached the Canadiens previously, and he got fired for the guy that he just replaced. So it's real. I find it rather odd. I think Claude Julien is a tremendous human being and a wonderful hockey coach. I'm really just surprised he jumped back in so quick. Me emotionally, I would have thought he would have maybe taken some time to get away from it, but it just shows you how competitive us coaches are. He just wanted to get right back into the saddle, but it was definitely strange.
Renee from Wichita asks, somebody asked you earlier this season, but have you thought further about doing camps here?
Probably starting next September, just prior to training camp. I won't be here during the summer months because I go back to my house in Florida, but I will be back here in September because I have to enroll my youngest boy in school. So I think September is a good time because that's a lead up to training camps for minor, tryouts for the youth hockey players as well. It's a lead up to our training camp as well. So I'm thinking September.
Excellent. Our last question this week is from Jill from Wichita. She says, Coach, you seem like such a good dad and a good husband. Do you have a single brother out there and can I get his phone number?
I do have a brother. He is single, and but he lives in Nova Scotia, so probably wouldn't work.
Quite a drive, Jill. Okay. Thanks for joining us this week, Coach.
Thank you.
We want to thank Coach Cameron for joining us on Drop the Gloves this week. If you have your own questions you'd like to ask the Wichita coach, please send them to us at malcolmcameron@minorleaguesportsreport.com. That's malcolmcameron@minorleaguesportsreport.com. Please have your questions to us by Monday evening so we can give the coach a little time to review them before we record the show. I'm Rob Paneer, the managing editor of the Minor League Sports Report, and we'll see you next time